Good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township Committee meeting of December 12th, 2017. Ms. Porek, please call the roll.
Committeeman Bichette.
Here.
Committeeman Delcor.
Here.
Committeeman Thompson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Here.
Mayor Srirachi.
Here.
Administrator Ferreira.
Here.
Attorney Willard.
Here.
Please join me in a salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be advised that in accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, that notice of this meeting was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex and notifying the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex at 7:30 p.m. on December 12th, 2017. First up, we have approval of meeting minutes. May I have approval of the November 8th, 2017 regular session minutes?
So moved, Mayor. Second.
Comments from the dais? Floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Bichette.
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor.
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Mayor Srirachi.
Yes. Okay, that was all we have for meeting minutes. Moving on to reports from committee liaisons. First up, Committeeman Bichette.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing I'd like to talk about is I had the honor of going to the Nick Magnos Cancer Call-Out party that the Cancer Call-Out is a organization of SWAT team members for Somerset County and other officers that raise money for people in need. And these guys are pretty amazing in what they do. They raised $75,000 last year, and what they did is had this event. They had it at the Green Knoll Grill and invited the families in and presented money to these families. And it's really quite the organization, so it's really honored to go to that. It's also honored to go to the Veterans Day. We had the Parks and Recreation people did a great job, and I'd like to thank everybody that did attend. And we had a ceremony out at the Memorial Garden that was really, really nice just a few weeks ago. From our engineering department, as the winter season approaches, the engineering department would like to let the property owners know that the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has snow removal guidelines. It is recommended that the residents and businesses avoid piling up snow in front of their storm sewer catch basins. This will cause flooding, and when melting occurs, and the piles of snow may also contain sand and other sediments and other debris which will impact the brooks and streams in town. Please pile snow as far away you can from storm sewer catch basins as much as possible. From the DPW, the Township Leaf Collection Drop-Off Program has finished its first round of leaf pickup and is now starting the second pass throughout the town. Residents are reminded to put your leaves out to the curb if you choose to take advantage of the program. The Otten Road disposal site is open from 7 to 3 p.m. on Saturdays through the end of December for leaf pickup, for leaf drop-off. Any anticipated leaf pickup schedule is placed on the Township website under the DPW link every Friday. Please check for any updates. Also from the DPW is urging that all residents that have basketball nets that are protruding into the roadway to remove them for the winter months. The plow trucks cannot see them at night and oftentimes miss or hit them. That is all.
Thank you, Committeeman. Committeeman Delcor.
Thank you, Mayor. As noted earlier, I did also have a chance, obviously, to attend our Veterans Day, which is a great event. The PBA also had a Stuff the Bus campaign in ShopRite a few weeks ago. I'd like to thank them for their efforts in providing that food for some of the underprivileged people in Somerset County here. So thank you for doing that. On a personal note, too, I'd like to thank our police department, in particular Officer Giraldi, who's here tonight. We've got a whole bunch of police events tonight, but on Saturday, in the middle of, as the snow was starting, I had a bit of an issue. My vehicle got disabled on Amwell Road. I had to wait for a tow, and Officer Giraldi patiently waited there behind me so I didn't get killed on Amwell Road as people were coming by as I was disabled on the road there. So I just wanted to personally thank him. I did it that day. It was I appreciate the support and the effort. And I know they do that for all disabled vehicles, but this particular one touched me personally, so thank you. And finally, on the finance side, tax bills were mailed in September, including the billing for the February and May of 2018 bills. If you've misplaced your tax bill and would like another copy mailed with your 2018 billing, please contact our finance office at 908-369-8672, and they will be happy to mail you a new bill. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Committeeman. Committeeman Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing from me this evening from Recreation. The winter basketball is underway. Be sure to visit the Parks and Recreation website for all the upcoming programs and everything else that we're doing through Parks and Recreation. I know you're going to touch on the tree lighting and the menorah lighting, but great job again by Parks and Rec for that. And just on a side note, DPW, I know we had our first snowstorm this week. They did an amazing job as always, so thank you to all those guys for the long hours they put in. It's probably going to be a snowy winter this year, so we greatly appreciate all their hard work. Thanks, Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Committeeman. Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Just a few notes from me for Somerset County residents. If you have not received your schedule in the mail for recycling, it should be in the mail by December 31st. If not, you can give them a call, or you can email them at recycling@co.somerset.nj.us. And please be sure that you receive that so you know the current cycling system. Sometimes it changes. You can also view and download the new schedule on the county website, which is www.co.somerset.nj.us/recycle. And to stay up to date with the Somerset County events and information, please sign up for their free email alerts as well at www.co.somerset.nj/subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we usually put those kind of events out there. Also, if anybody knows an outstanding Somerset County woman who has made an extraordinary contribution to her career field or in her community, there is the Somerset County Commission on the Status of Women seeking nominations this year. I've been doing it for many, many years in a row, and it's always a wonderful event to highlight women that live in Somerset County. The awards program nominations must be received by December 31st on December 31st, 2017. So if you do know anybody, you can go on to Friday e-newsletter or onto our website. All details will be there. There are different categories for different things, so you might really know someone who fits in that particular category that can win this nomination. I think that's it for me this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've got a few things this evening. Excuse me. First up, I just wanted to thank Miriam Prinsky. She hosted the menorah lighting earlier this evening, and I think activities may still be going across the hall. So, so you may still have time to check that out. And then also earlier this month, the township hosted the annual Christmas tree lighting. I know my fellow committee members were there. Unfortunately, I had a town event that I wasn't able to attend, but thank you again to everyone who attended, the volunteers who participated, and of course, by getting Parks and Recreation played a big role in that, and obviously can still walk through our lighted trails outside. And looking ahead to 2018, we do have Hillsborough Night at the New Jersey Devils coming up. That will be Saturday, January 13th. It's our annual hockey game with the Devils that features Hillsborough for that night. And I do believe tickets are available through the website, and more information will be available through the newsletter. And I know we get a couple of special bonuses there, including we do a group photo on center ice following the game. So.
And the police are doing the colors.
What was that?
The police are doing the colors.
Oh, okay. And I just found out that our police department's going to be doing the colors that night too. So, so looking forward to that. And as always, you can stay connected, with all the events that we just spoke about and more via our Friday e-newsletter and Twitter. And if you do not get the newsletter, a nice email from me every Friday afternoon. There's cards in the back you can sign up. And of course, You can always see us on TV 29 if you do get cable, and the Hillsborough YouTube channel, which showcases all of our meetings, and our semi-reality TV show that we call Hillsborough: The Good Life. And I do understand that we do have a new episode up there, so if you've been at any of our township events, good chance that you may have been videoed and maybe featured on that, on our latest episode. And the best thing is this year, it's only 10 minutes. So it's fast-paced, and it's hosted by our videographer here, Kaz. And I'm still waiting for that T-shirt, the Good Life T-shirt, so. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up for Swift Reach 911 for traffic and emergency notifications. I know, and I always say at every meeting, it's saved me numerous times, definitely during the rush hour commutes, to know if there's any road closures or any detours. And that's all I have for this evening. Did we want to move up to Resolution 1? So,
It's in the right order.
is it all right? Okay. All right, so we will then move on to proclamations. We just ask that after you receive your recognition, please resume your seat. And we will pause, and we will promise to let you go before the meeting's over. We do not take offense if you don't want to stay with us for the entire session. So first up, I'd like to invite Girl Scout Gold Award recipient Alexis Fetter and her family up.
Oh, no.
Well, it's usually Gloria. Whereas Alexis Fetter, a senior at Hillsborough High School and a member of Girl Scout Troop 6719, recently earned her Gold Award. And whereas we, the Hillsborough Township Committee, recognize the many hours Alexis devoted towards earning her Girl Scout Gold Award, working with diligence in order to achieve this highly coveted recognition. And whereas Alexis's Gold Award project, Garden for the Hungry, helped to address the shortage of food available at local food banks by planting vegetable gardens to serve disadvantaged communities in local towns, including Hillsborough and Somerville. And whereas Alexis worked with the congregation of Hillsborough Presbyterian Church, including Master Gardener Laura Fletcher, to help her create the vegetable gardens. And whereas Alexis donated vegetables to the food bank to help those in need to have access to fresh and healthy foods that is otherwise in short supply. And whereas Alexis made a photo book of her journey, which she will donate to the Children's Library of Hillsborough. And whereas Alexis serves as an example to the youth of Hillsborough Township through her achievements, leadership, and community service, and we're very proud that Alexis is a member of our community. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the mayor and the Hillsborough Township Committee, do hereby recognize and extend our sincere congratulations to Alexis for having earned her Girl Scout Gold Award, an honor for both her and for those who have guided her, and we wish her all the best in her future endeavors. Signed by the mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Congratulations, Alexis.
Good evening, Mayor Sirachi, Township Committee, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely honored to be receiving recognition for achieving my Gold Award. My last 12 years as a Girl Scout has given me so many opportunities to learn and grow, making me the person I am today. I want to remind you of the mission of Girl Scouts. Girl Scouting builds girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. I am proud of being a Girl Scout for over a decade. Girl Scouts has helped me to have the courage, confidence, and character to become the best person I can be. Thank you all so much.
Okay. I'd like to invite Chloe Wong. Whereas Chloe Wong, a senior at Hillsborough High School and a member of Girl Scout Troop 66880, recently earned her Gold Award. And whereas we, the Hillsborough Township Committee, recognize the many hours Chloe devoted towards earning her Girl Scout Gold Award, working with diligence in order to achieve this highly coveted recognition. And whereas Chloe's Gold Award project involved making recipe booklets full of healthy recipes with the help of Samantha Nuzio, registered dietitian at ShopRite. And whereas Chloe handed out the recipe booklets and informational pamphlets about eating healthy at the Healthy Kids Day at the YMCA. There was a follow-up event to see whether people kept to their goals. And whereas Chloe also planned activities and presented healthy eating seminars at 2 YMCA camps and at the Hillsborough Recreation Camp, and distributed healthy eating pamphlets at local gyms in Hillsborough and the Hillsborough Library. And whereas Chloe serves as an example to the youth of Hillsborough Township through her achievements, leadership, and community service, and we're very proud that Chloe is a member of our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that we, the mayor and the Hillsborough Township Committee, do hereby recognize and extend our sincere congratulations to Chloe for having earned her Girl Scout Award, an honor for both for her and for those who have guided her, and we wish her well, all the best in her future endeavors. So on behalf of the mayor and members of the Township Committee, congratulations, Chloe.
I just wanted to thank my parents for supporting me all throughout my Gold Award, the rest of my Girl Scout troop, Samantha Nuzio, and the Township Committee for recognizing me.
Okay, Yash Parikh. Whereas Yash Parikh, a sophomore at Hillsborough High School and a member of Boy Scout Troop 89, has recently earned the status of Eagle Scout. And whereas the Hillsborough Township Committee recognizes the many hours that Yash devoted to attaining the status of Eagle Scout, working with diligence and making sacrifices in order to achieve this highly coveted position. And whereas Yash has served the Boy Scouts in an exemplary manner and is deserving of the honor bestowed upon him. And whereas Yash's Eagle Scout project consisted of the management and construction of 4 6-foot wooden benches for his temple in Parlin, New Jersey, over 20 different people from Troop 89 or otherwise helped put in more than 200 hours into the project. And whereas Yash has served as a patrol leader, librarian, and scribe. And whereas Yash is an active member of the Hillsborough High School boys volleyball team and varsity debate team, president of the STEM Club, officer of Amnesty International Club, and participated in the Waxman Student Scholars Program. And whereas Yash serves as an example to the youth of Hillsborough Township through his high-level leadership and community service, and we're very proud that he's a member of our community. Now therefore it be proclaimed that we, the mayor, and the Hillsborough Township Committee do hereby recognize and extend our sincere congratulations to Yash for having achieved the status of Eagle Scout, an honor for both him and for those who guided him, with best wishes for a bright future. Signed by the mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Congratulations.
I would just like to thank everyone who's helped me so far. Boy Scouts has really made me who I am. I want to thank everyone who's involved in all of my scouting so far, especially my parents, my sister, my Eagle Project mentor, Mr. Sincata, who's right here, and all the other scouts in the troop as well as the leadership.
Well, we did have an award for Outstanding Manager Award, but he's having troubles with the PowerPoint. I think that wasn't one of the requirements. So we have a plaque here for the Outstanding Manager Award from the New Jersey Municipal Management Association. And this year it went to our very own Township Administrator, Anthony Ferrera, for 2017. And just want to say congratulations. We already knew the secret, but now the secret's gotten out that you've done a very, great job here for now 5 years. Yeah, just about 5 years, so congratulations.
First, I'm honored to receive the award from the NJMMA, but in reality, you can't do something like this alone. So I really wanted to thank the mayor and the committee for allowing the flexibility of all the programs and things we do here in Hillsborough. And without the employees that we have here, amazing employees that we have here in the residency community, this award wouldn't be mine. So again, it really takes everybody and all the efforts to support something like this. So I want to thank everybody, and I'll accept the award on everybody here in the community and the Mayor, Township Committee, and the employees and residents. So thank you.
Right back down to the front, but however, we do have a couple of appointments today for the rank of sergeant. However, before we do any swearing in, we actually have to vote on it, so that's why we had to jump back up here real quick. So first up is a resolution authorizing the promotions of Corporal David and,
That's fine.
are we going?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. And Corporal Peter Schultz to Sergeant in the Hillsborough Township Police Department, effective December 13th, 2017.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
All right. Comments from the dais? From the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Burchett?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley?
Yes.
And Mayor Sarachi.
Yes, now I would like to invite Corporal, now soon to be Sergeant Dave Earl, to the front, along with his family, and Chief.
I, Dave
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in the state
and in the state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
that I will impartially
that I will impartially
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of
all of the duties of
the office of Sergeant
the office of Sergeant
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Sergeant.
This is a very proud moment for me, and I'm very happy that everyone is here tonight. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight for me. Thank you.
Sergeant, can't make it official until it's signed. I should appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, as I promised, we're going to take a pause now, so I just want to congratulate our Girl Scout recipients, our Boy Scout, and of course, our newest sergeant. Congratulations, and of course, not to say the least, our Administrator of the Year, or Manager of the Year, Anthony Ferrara. So we'll take a brief pause. You're more than welcome to stay for the next hour, hour and a half with us, but if you want to leave, we will not be offended, and just enjoy Enjoy the rest of the evening, and we don't see you, happy holidays, and see you in the new year. Good night, everyone.
There's a meeting next week on the 19th.
Okay, so we're ready to reconvene from our brief pause. Again, just want to congratulate all of our proclamation recipients, Anthony Ferrer for his award, or his recognition, and of course, now Sergeant Err on his promotion. So we do not have any new business this time, so we will now open it up to public comment on matters that are not on the agenda. If you have any public comment for matters not on the agenda, please come to the mic, state your name and address.
Meryl Bisberg, excuse me, 4 Hickory Hill Road, Hillsborough. I just have a question on last month's bill list. There was an item for $6.9 million appropriated from open space to the Somerset County Improvement Authority for the GSA Depot. Can you tell us what that is?
It relates to the property that we had purchased with the county 7 or 8 years ago at this point. The GSA Depot was put into the Improvement Authority, but we had actually never contributed our funds out of the open space until there were a number of legal hurdles that we had gone through. So the money had been appropriated, but never actually put aside. Correct?
Yes, 100% correct.
So when we purchased it in conjunction with Somerset County, I think it's more than 7 or 8 years ago. I'm not exactly sure of the year. We never paid? Is that what you're saying? This is that payment?
That's that payment?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional public comment, matters not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will now go to public hearings. We have a couple of ordinances up this evening. First up is ordinance 2017-20, an ordinance of the Township of Hillsborough, Somerset County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 188, Land Use and Development, Article 5, Districts and Standards, Section 188-113.1, GA Gateway A District of the Code of the Township of Hillsborough by amending Section 113.1 to add new subsection J, Multifamily Inclusionary Overlay District. And, let's see.
That's it.
Yeah, no. So this ordinance creates a multifamily overlay option in the above-mentioned zone, and we do have the township planner, David Maskey, is here this evening to provide some brief comments on this ordinance. Mr. Maskey.
Thank you, Mayor. As you just said, this ordinance would create an overlay district. It does not change the underlying district, which is Gateway A, which allows several uses, commercial, office, et cetera. Currently, the Gateway A zone does not permit single-use residential buildings. This ordinance would provide a district that would allow that to happen on this particular tract of land. The requirements are that it be no less than 9.3 acres, and there are certain setback and bulk requirements included in the ordinance. This is part of the township's effort to meet the affordable housing obligation. It would allow up to 126 units total on the site, of which 31 would have to meet the affordability criteria.
Okay. And this was already heard and recommended from the planning board last week?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maskey. May I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance?
So move, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, any additional discussion from the dais?
Mayor, just as you noted, we did, after this was introduced, as we usually do, we allowed this to be presented at the planning board. It was reviewed. We did have some public comment, which I'm sure we will have tonight as well. But as Mr. Maskey noted, this is really part of supporting our affordable housing requirements, which I think we all know are fairly onerous from the state at this point, but we nonetheless have to try to meet our obligations. So this is one part that will help us work towards meeting those obligations.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from dais? Okay. Any discussions from the floor? Anyone would like to comment? You may come up to the mic, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. Bob Kennedy, 32 Steinmetz Road. I live there with my wife. Kids are gone, so it's a quiet neighborhood now. I'll reiterate my comments from
Sir,
Thursday night's meeting.
sir, can you speak into the mic a little bit? They can't hear on the TV. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll reiterate my comments from the other night for those of you who weren't in attendance. But I mentioned Steinmetz Road feels like we're under attack. First, the bypass bisected our street, split up neighbors, long-term neighbors. Then with the bypass opening, we're battered every day, maybe with a break on Sunday, from the constant noise of the jailbreaking of the large dump trucks, tractor trailers, what have you, that enter at Amwell Road onto the bypass. That noise funnels right down the length of Steinmetz Road. The Vodder's property is low grade of the rest of the road. They get the noise down there. I don't think there's a family that's not impacted by the daily interruptions of these trucks. Probably starting at 5 a.m. So it's a very negative impact on the neighborhood. Now we have this housing planned. I look at the housing that's just opening on this side of 206. It's a Westering Place. I'm not sure exactly of the name of it, but they look like they're well done. They're 2 stories. My fear is the 3 stories are a bit much. They come back and encroach on our neighborhood, and it's like, I can imagine this, we have pretty private backyards. It's a relatively quiet neighborhood, except for the previously mentioned trucks. It's like, you be in your backyard, you're on television. You got 3-story buildings not far from the property line. A 20-foot setback isn't much when you're talking 3 stories. I don't know if they're 45 feet high or what they are. But I think it's just one more major inconvenience for Steinmetz Road. If the 3-story buildings are up front on Amwell Road, maybe that's a lesser impact on the rest of the neighborhood. But you have to live down there and actually walk it to see what we're talking about, at least what I'm talking about. But I think I'm speaking for, in general, most of the neighbors of Steinmetz Road. All right, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Katie Vodder, 104 Steinmetz Road. And I wanted to thank Mayor Sirachi for explaining the affordable housing.
Welcome.
I'm bad at speaking in front of people. It had helped to explain it. We just were hoping maybe 2 stories. I know the property's only 9.3 acres, but, and of course it is sort of in our front yard, but hey, and I understand what you mean about that. And then I had mentioned also that the map was incorrect. I assume that would be corrected.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's pretty much the same feeling as the other people. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any additional comments? Yep.
Yes. Nick Markry at 108 Steinmetz. I remember we were talking about stuff and saying, gotta put this here, you're gonna do this, you're gonna have, I'll make sure the water doesn't flood all the basements and everything else. I said about the red fox, you came back and says, we don't care about the deer. I didn't ask about the deer, I said about the red fox that was supposed to be endangered. And I didn't really get an answer for that. And I said, hey, why don't we put it over there on the other half of the road that we don't use? Didn't like that answer neither. What about if they go down the road, across the street from Burger King, they got that whole shopping plaza there empty. Nobody's even using it. You could probably put 5 buildings there. I mean, like you said, we're under attack all the time over there. We have a quiet neighborhood, peaceful except for the trucks, but, you know, that's part of the road over that side, but why come and attack us around this way, have more traffic, everything else building up over there? You said you had him, the cop standing behind you before so you didn't get run over the road and get crashed into.
Absolutely.
Well, then, putting that there is gonna make it even worse over there on Amwell Road. So, I mean, why can't we move it somewhere else? Like over there. I mean, there's a whole big giant lot, empty stores, not even being used anymore. Guy would probably be happy to sell the whole place. Put 5 of them there, make them all low income over there. They can go right to Burger King and the bank right there. I mean,
But, and I appreciate your comment, but we don't have the luxury of telling people with their property what they should do with it, right? I mean, we have to look at areas where development may be possible, and in those areas, it's the same type of development possible. But ultimately, the owner of the property would have to comply with the zoning requirements that we're putting forth. We can't just go to those other groups and say, you know, please put this here. That they have to, the owner has to be willing to build something on it.
well, I mean, the owner would probably be happy to get rid of it considering he's got all empty vacant stores. And he's losing money every day. Here we have a quiet spot over here. I imagine the guy Rick who owns the property.
He's very well aware that, you know, of affordable housing. If he wanted to, he would have approached us on that. But trust me when I say he's very well aware. But he chooses to keep that property empty. And that's his choice, but.
I know he's got his warehouse there and he's still got stuff in it. So. I mean, so you could still put it there no matter what and try to do 3 stories even though you only have to do 2 stories.
I'm not sure following on that.
Well, they said they were going to put 2 story. Then they said, no, we wanted to add a 3rd story. That's what I'm asking.
Right. I mean, I think as Commitment Delcourt said, you know, we have the affordable housing obligation. We're, you know, we get, or I don't know what you want to call, what's the right word, entertain proposals for building affordable housing, you know, from developers, property owners, and.
I'm sure you have interveners in your affordable housing
Right.
litigation. I think maybe this was one of the properties, and what happens is if you don't come to a resolution, and you're not affordable housing compliant, and the court enters an order, then you get whatever the court decides is reasonable.
As we had talked about the other day, you know, if we don't come up with a plan, the courts can essentially mandate it from the developer. It's called developer remedies lawsuit. We've suffered the consequences of those here in Hillsborough before, and honestly, it's as sometimes onerous as we think the current requirements may be. It would be worse if we lost complete control of our ability to maintain it and dictate it to the developers and the courts.
Yeah, and essentially we would lose the planning control, or control of the planning process. It goes into the courts. And the great example, I think I might have mentioned at the planning board meeting, across the street from United Rental, that was a result of Hillsborough failure to have a round 2 plan, and we lost control of the planning, and that was one of the remedies. A developer just came in, placed a lawsuit, and basically, you know, gave his plan to the courts, and the court said yes. So they could actually make things worse. Because, you know, I think as we discussed with the fair share housing, and I know Doug will chime in, because I know he's very passionate on this subject, but they, they don't care about infrastructure. And I think that was where we were having a discussion about the fox and the deers or whatever. They just don't take into
There's
that.
other empty spots that doesn't matter where they put it at, right?
But the reality with the fox, and I don't mean to minimize that, but ultimately what would happen is, we're developing what we think is a zoning plan that would work for that. But the reality is, when there's actually a plan that would be presented that would have to go through the planning board, there are environmental concerns that would have to be addressed. And if there are issues with wildlife habitats or any kind of other wetlands issues or anything like that, that would come up and be part of the engineering process that the DEP would have to sign off on, as well as other agencies would have to ensure that we're not encroaching on those type of habitats as part of a development, or not we, the developer. So I'm not trying to minimize your concern, but it's not something that necessarily gets addressed at the zoning hearing. It would be addressed when there's actually a site plan available for that site.
I also know that they tried to buy Angus's property, and he said, I refuse. And he's right there next to it, and he says, my home, my property, so I'm not selling it. So I know that they wanted to buy all of it.
He's got the right to hold out if he wants to stay. I mean, certainly, everyone's got their own property
They'll never
rights.
move. I know that. He's been there for years, so. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Doug, did you want to?
Yeah, just before we vote, I just want to say one thing, and to the gentleman's point who just spoke. I'm sorry, I'm under the weather. When we start talking about these vacant properties in town and everything, the New Jersey legislature has gone down this route already, where Senator Lesniak had legislation that would have allowed properties like the cost cutters to be taken over by eminent domain and essentially forced to rebuild, cleaned up, and be built into affordable housing structures. That bill went nowhere in the legislature. It sat there, even though the senator was chairman of the committee. It got through, and then it sat and died in the legislature. The legislature and the governor did nothing to save us from the affordable housing mandates. That's where we're at right now. We have this 10,000 unit mandate that's sitting here over all these municipalities that are forcing us to just zone for building. And it's crazy. If you look at Hillsborough, the building that went on in the mid-90s and then it slowed down in the 2000s and 2010s, we had a lull in building. And that's why for years everyone said, schools enrollment kept going down. Well, guess what? It's going up again. It's because we're being forced to build affordable housing without the infrastructure to take care of it. And that's the part that really gets me every time. And I know I've said this more than once, but we lack the infrastructure. Not because of nothing that this governing body or the governing bodies in the past have done, but we don't have the busing. We don't have some of the job placements and facilities for all these new housing that's being built. And no one is accounting for that at the legislative or at the governor's level. It's not being addressed by the Supreme Court as new mandates are put on top of us each and every year. And what's worse is that if we don't zone and we don't say, you know what, someone's got to build in your backyard, builder gets to come along, sue us, and they get to build 3 times as many houses as they were before. And then we're no closer than where we were. And it's ridiculous. And I'm sorry to do this, Assemblyman-elect Fryman. You're going to be going down to the legislature in 3-4 weeks, but this is one of the things that everyone's going to clamor, and you represent South Brunswick, which has been going through this worse than we have, or on the same level. Princeton's been fighting with fair housing. Princeton, the People's Republic of Princeton, people joke about because of how much they lean left sometimes, and I say that all joking aside because they have embraced affordable housing in Princeton, and yet they still have been sued by affordable housing advocates saying you haven't gone far enough. There's no balancing going on in the state of New Jersey right now when it comes to private property rights versus affordable housing. And something's got to give. And unfortunately, what's giving is your property values in your backyard. It's wrong, it's not fair, and someone needs to address it. So I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to take so much time, but everyone's got to work together on this. It's not a Republican issue. It is not a Democrat issue. This is an issue that affects everyone day in and day out, and hopefully all sides will get together and fix this because, quite frankly, New Jersey is going to continue to be unaffordable and unlivable for so many unless we actually put our heads around this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like your voice cleared up well.
A little bit.
Okay. Any additional comments from the dais?
Just because I was not at the planning board meeting, I just would like to clarify also, I know that you're going from, there's talking about 3-story buildings from a 2-story building. Was there a reason for raising that level to a three-story building? Because I know, I personally can go on record stating I'm not in favor always of three-story buildings, depending on location and where they are, unless they're the right place to do so.
The current GA zone does cap it at 2 stories. The 3 stories allows the intensity to construct the number of units to get the affordable housing units. That's the formula we're kind of struggling with all the time. So in order to get to 26 units, or 31 units, I'm sorry, they have to build a certain proportion to offset that from a developer standpoint, from a market standpoint. Otherwise, they won't build the affordables. So it's a formula we have to deal with.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay. So may I have a motion to close public hearing and adopt ordinance 2017-20?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeeman Burchett?
Yes.
Committeeman Delacorte?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. Okay, up next is ordinance 2017-21, and an ordinance of the Township of Hillsborough, Somerset County, New Jersey, amending the redevelopment plan, BELLE MEAD GSA Depot, subsections B, permitted principal uses, subsection C, accessory uses, subsection E, area, yard, and bulk regulations, and subsection F, supplementary regulations. So, this proposal will fill in regulatory gaps in the redevelopment plan relating to recreational facilities. And again, we do have Township Planner David Maskey here this evening to provide some comments on this ordinance.
Thank you again, Mayor. This ordinance would amend a redevelopment plan that was adopted in 2008 for the GSA Depot. And just to clarify, because at the planning board meeting, there was some question about exactly what part of the depot this applies to. There's 2 halves, basically, to the former Army Depot. The southern half, which includes the new ball fields, was just mentioned earlier about the town and the county purchasing that property. That's the redevelopment plan area. The northern half, which is undergoing the remediation process right now, where they're stripping all the dirt away, et cetera, that is not part of this. That's still in private hands. It's still zoned ED, which it's been zoned since the 80s, I believe. This has no impact whatsoever on that part of the old depot. So that being said, as the mayor said, this fills in some regulatory gaps. One of the permitted uses in the redevelopment plan, which may turn this into what they call the RD, or Research and Development Zone, was in indoor recreation facilities, including inflatable domes. That's pretty much as far as the plan went. It didn't give any regulations in terms of height, setbacks, types of services that could be provided, et cetera. So the purpose of this amendment is to fill those gaps in. So in various sections of the plan, for instance, it addresses accessory uses. So if you have an indoor recreation facility, and most people are familiar with them now, they're pretty popular, what else can be inside of it besides a tennis court and a soccer field, et cetera? So this ordinance would cap what we call accessory or ancillary uses within the building, a certain amount of retail, selling sports equipment, T-shirts, sneakers, some food service, some medical clinic type of rehab facility perhaps, some modest meeting space, but that would be capped at 20%. So that fills in that gap. There's a section that further defines how you measure the height of any building in the redevelopment plan, because it sort of stopped short. We expanded the definition so that it's an average height of 40 feet, and it talks about where you measure it from at the ground level to this highest point of the building. Most substantively, I guess, are the regulations specific to inflatable bubbles, as they're called. I'll get to that in a second, but there's one last section that had to do with parking, and we better define the parking requirements instead of what they are now. It added a parking requirement of 40 spaces per recreation field, plus whatever ancillary services they have, plus the parking required for the recreation facility itself. But getting back to the dome, so first of all, the dome would have to be ancillary to an actual use. You can't just build the dome. You have to have the recreation facility with the hard structures, et cetera. There shall be no more than 2 domes on the site. Now, 1 dome would be allowed to exceed the 40-foot average height that applies otherwise in the redevelopment area. That would be restricted by a requirement that says no more than 2.5% of the dome roof surface may reach 75 feet in height. The reason we took that route is because it's a parabolic shape, so it curves off. So it defines how much of the roof can actually reach 75 feet, which is basically only 2.5% of the full dome height. If a dome goes to that height, and only one of them can of the two, and this is a provision that the planning board had a comment on to change in this particular draft ordinance. Originally, it said it would have to be at least 125 feet back from any property line. The planning board has recommended that that be increased to 200 feet, basically based on a recommendation of one of the residents. So that would be a change. Generally, domed structures would be located to minimize their visibility from neighboring residential properties. So that's the crux of the ordinance. Again, the planning board agreed with it, with the exception of increasing the minimum setback to 200 feet.
Okay. Thank you. So may I have a motion to open public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any additional discussion from the dais?
There, as you know, this was also presented at Planning Board after we introduced it last month. I think Mr. Maskey did a good job of summarizing a couple of things, and one of the benefits that we derive out of having the Planning Board also look at this and having public comment at the Planning Board is we do get the opportunity to kind of revisit some of the issues. One was noted where it probably makes some sense to change the setback. It doesn't affect what might be built there, but it does give a little bit more comfort to some of the surrounding neighbors. So that was something I think we could certainly look to do. But in essence, this is at this location, we had targeted utilizing this in conjunction with the ball fields that we already have at GSA to utilizing R&D, which also had sports provisions as part of it. This seems to be a location where the parameters of this zone with the amendments kind of meet some of the initial requirements. So the planning board looked favorably upon it with some of the added changes that were noted earlier.
And I just go, add that for the other members of the Township Committee is with regards to, residential comment. I know we notified well beyond the 200-foot because we were barely going to touch, I think maybe just one resident, maybe two at the most. So we wanted to make sure that the adjacent, neighborhood had, opportunity or awareness, of this ordinance, of this proposal, so that we could, solicit feedback, which, as Committeeman Delcor said, we did on the setback provision for the one dome. Any additional comments from the dais? Okay. Comments from the floor? All right, whoever gets up there first.
Hi, my name is John Warren. I'm over on Arthur Road, which is off of Mountain View. So just a couple things, I know you're talking about the height and all, and it's an average of 40, and of course it's a bubble. So really, my concern, and I'm glad you at least mentioned the maximum height, or the 2% anyway. A lot of the things that are going up, the height seems to be a problem. You mentioned about the 3-story versus a 2-story, and we're looking at development, maybe in my backyard with 3-story apartments right in my backyard with a 100-foot setback, which is seriously going to impact my my living space in the backyard. So, the setbacks are important. You're all really looking at those things, and the traffic impact too. I don't hear many people talking about the traffic impact, but your decisions, you're looking at the traffic impact, because I can tell you traffic's a serious problem. You mentioned about on Amwell Road, and it's going to be all over, and it's going to affect the quality of Hillsborough life. It is. There's a lot of residents who are really upset with a lot of the traffic issues. So keep that all in mind.
We completely agree. That was when I was mentioning about how unfortunately fair share housing doesn't care about infrastructure. Yeah, and it gets right down to that about traffic patterns and issues. But, with just getting with this proposal, because I believe that was raised at the planning board, and obviously when an application is going to be submitted, for this athletic dome, or whatever we want to call it, traffic will be, a traffic study will have to be ordered. And planning board will take that in consideration, particularly because I don't think there's any designations for, entry into that property, or how we expect the flow to go.
And everything's going to be on Mountain View going to that lake, which is where probably where the bypass is going to end up starting and stopping. So that is going to be a really impacted area right there, so. Right. Thanks.
Thank you.
It came up with the planning board. That's something that will certainly have to be addressed as a site plan becomes clear with traffic in and out of Mountain View.
Sean Hunt, 32 Arthur Road. I'm kind of just going over what he said with the traffic. Right now, the ball fields, it takes me about 15 minutes to get out of my development when the ball field's let out, which is, a little annoying, but especially because that light from Mountain View to 206, it's about 8 minutes, I think it takes, full cycle for that light to go through. You're sitting there about 8 to 10 minutes. So I was just hoping you guys would take that into consideration as well, because like I said, it's an average of 15 minutes to get out of there onto Mountain View when ball games do let out. And it's, like I said, it's very frustrating. I know we're a small development, but it still is pretty annoying, when you're trying to go somewhere on a Saturday. So just wanted to know.
I'm just wondering if that's something with the chief, how we could maybe do a study and maybe submit a request, because obviously any changes to the timing sequence of that light, since it's on state highway, the state would have to do, but.
We've done on planning board.
Well, I think that's DOT there, isn't it?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
And they'll do that at planning board as well.
Yeah.
Are they talking about any other exit to maybe Amwell, or splitting it up? Because I know that property does touch Amwell as well.
Those are options we'd have to discuss when they get to the planning board. Keep in mind, this is not a blank check for anybody to actually build one of these.
Yeah.
It doesn't enable any particular proposal. If and when this comes to the planning, first of all, there's 3 steps. First of all, they'd have to be named the redeveloper, because it's in a redevelopment area, by the township committee. They'd have to enter into a redeveloper agreement, which would lay out all the requirements, could be traffic as well. And then they'd have to go to the planning board for site plan approval, and they would have to provide a traffic analysis at that point to see how much traffic's going to come in, hours of operation, et cetera, and how that would be handled. At that point, the planning board, can look at various options. If it's going to overload, there has to be some options to handle that traffic.
Now, will you guys also do a traffic analysis?
That's on the developer to provide the traffic analysis too, as our township engineer reviews that. We just don't take it,
Yeah,
but our township engineer will review it and comment on it. And, if it shows a failed intersection, it has to be addressed.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment?
I just have a question. Is this Apex? Because Apex was the proposal for domes a couple of years ago on Hillsborough Road, and we've seen Apex listed for the executive session, and now it's showing up, I don't know if it's litigation or what reason, but the Apex contract was listed in the executive session. Now it's showing up in the GSA depot. So can you enlighten us a little bit?
Well, there's
on
no
what's happening?
proposal or any application from Apex that I'm aware of that's been filed.
Correct.
So this proposal is just changing or providing, like we said, some regulatory issues that we had gaps in this redevelopment plan. Or not plan, I'm just going to say.
This amendment doesn't, again, Apex is out there as a potential builder of a recreation facility, but again, this just puts in regulations to fill in certain regulatory gaps. The recreation complex is already permitted. Whether or not they're the ultimate developer, that is yet to be determined. Again, they would have to, whoever it is, has to, first of all, enter into an agreement with the county, because the county is part of the owner. And then whoever it is, again, would have to come to the township committee to be named the official redeveloper. See, because this is under the redevelopment statute, it's a little bit different. So whoever develops whatever has to be named the redeveloper by the township committee. So who that eventual developer will be is yet to be determined.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my 6.9 million from last month. If I understand what Mr. Delcourt said, because it was for the GSA depot, so I think it does relate to this. Was there anything in that amount of money, since it's happening at the same time as this, that has to do with redevelopment or has to do with this? And are we really saying that for 8 years we didn't pay our tab with
It has
Somerset
nothing to do with
County?
whether or not we paid our tab. It has to do with the fact that at the time we purchased the property, it was funded by the Improvement Authority. And until the improvements were done and the project was completed, our money stayed in the Open Space Development Fund until it was able to be, we had a final contract and the county essentially asked us for the funding. It's not as if we weren't paying the process. It was just how the funding was developed between us and the county. The money was appropriated, it was set aside in the account, it just wasn't transferred as part of the transaction. So it was dedicated to that process, just not transferred.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, folks. Glenn Watson, 22 Arthur. Not to be a parrot and repeat what everybody did say, but yes, the big concern of the GSA is obviously the traffic. And it wasn't that bad. Ball fields are seasonal, and that's kind of good. And what that does is it draws the crowds and the usage to the weekends normally. And like John and Sean mentioned, we'll sit through minimum of 5 cycle changes. Okay, to come out from Arthur to Mountain to go to 206, 5 cycles. And that's if you get somebody who's kind enough to let you get out of your street to make a right. Making a left to head to East Mountain, not an issue, heading to 206.
Excuse me.
Okay, so that's seasonal, and it's weekends. So it's like when you catch a break on 206, which is usually Saturday and Sunday, now you get to deal with the ball fields during the season. But when you open up a dome, now what you're going to do is you're going to introduce a 365-day operation because the outside elements are now removed from the equation. So you're going to have more activity, if you will, with that. So, and like they also said, if there's other way into this whole thing except Mountain View, I don't know, you did mention, Dave, that it could be another egress out to Amwell, which would then really lighten the burden on that. But sometimes it's like, I couldn't believe, I got there, what, did the bridge collapse on East Mountain? Where are these cars going? It was the ball field. Now with the dome, and especially 2, it's chaotic, not to mention the other issues concerning our neighborhood over there too. So couple all that together, it's going to be.
So just to read a couple things, just so.
Yeah.
Most of the items that are in the zone were already permissible. So it's not really, we're not changing to allow things that weren't previously available. It's just kind of, as Mr. Maskey noted, providing additional definition and regulation against some of the things. Some things are changing, but most of these were permissible. So we don't have an application. We can say this is what is going to be required and how we would deal with that. What would happen going forward is now, when there is an application, if there is an application on the property, all of those things will be looked at. And if there is a way to direct some additional egress, certainly be looked at. Obviously, the traffic must be looked at. There's no doubt about that. We recognize that. But it would be part of the application process. It's not something that we can address now because we just don't know what the impact will be, because that impact will only be determined by what the site plan would dictate is being proposed there. So your concerns are noted, and I share them.
And a lot, though, with the traffic studies. I know for a fact a very good friend of mine was the township engineer for South Brunswick Township for 6 years now with the Port Authority. And a lot of those studies can be made to reflect either, you can make an argument for either side, or the validity of them basically are not really, it usually comes down to, oh, there's going to be no impact on traffic. It's usually the bottom line that's done from the developer. That's usually the line that they'll say. I know you guys understand and recognize a lot of it, but there has to be. I mean, logic dictates that if you're going to now introduce more vehicles into a more confined area, I mean, A plus B equals traffic, no? And congestion?
Potentially, certainly, but my point is, until we know what type of establishment would go there and how large it would be, how many square foot, how many visitors would likely be there at any given time, what the work hours would be, what the potential peak rates would be, it's not something we can address, because even if we chose to say, you know what, there's that building there is going to require a revised traffic plan, well, how do we adjust the traffic plan if we can't figure out what ultimately is going to be there? So again, I don't want to minimize your concerns, because they're very valid, but it's a process. It's just a bit premature in our planning process. We'll have to get there.
This will
no doubt
come
about it.
as time goes on and plans are made more clearer.
I'm sorry?
This will be addressed later on and throughout the process.
When there's actually a site plan
Gotcha.
that's getting discussed, absolutely. Yep.
There hasn't been any application yet, so.
Thanks.
No,
Thanks,
and
Mr.
if you live within 200 feet of the site, you would be notified when that site plan came in, when it was going to go to the planning board, so you could show up at the hearing and make your concerns to the planning board at the same time.
Perfect. Thanks, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public? Seeing none, may I have a motion to close public hearing and adopt
So moved.
ordinance?
Mayor,
Oh.
just to address the planning board's
Oh,
comment,
okay.
there is a comment from the planning board regarding the minimum setback requirement set forth in section E8D of the ordinance. The ordinance is presently written, indicates that there be a setback of 125 feet. I think the planning board is recommending that be increased to 200 feet.
Right.
So at this point in time, the township committee has the option to, A, make a motion and a second to adopt that recommendation, amend the ordinance, and then we could have a final hearing on this ordinance at the next township committee meeting on the 19th. Or B, you could decide to reject that suggestion. You would have to state your reasons for so in rejecting it, and then take your vote. So those are the two options.
Okay. So I guess what I'll do is I'll first offer a motion to close public hearing and to amend the ordinance as recommended by the planning board to a 200-foot setback, and to have another public hearing, or extend
Yes.
the public hearing?
Yeah, the statute we're requiring, since we are making an amendment, and given the amount of the amendment with respect to the setback, I think that's a substantial substance that we should, again, publish, and then just have the hearing. It specifically says we can do it within 1 week. We have another meeting scheduled for the 19th, so the best way to do it is to do that, follow that process according to the statute, and then we can adopt it on the 19th.
Okay. So it's just an amendment?
That's correct.
Okay.
We're just, and the only, just so the public's
Okay.
clear, the only amendment that's being made, if that's what you vote on, the only amendment that's being made is changing the setback from 125 feet and increasing it to 200 feet, based upon some comments that people made at the planning board and the planning board's recommendation.
Okay.
So just for clarity, it's not being reintroduced.
Right.
It's just basically a second public hearing, in
Yeah.
essence, correct?
Well, it's being introduced as amendment, but yes, you're right. It's just amended. It's just an amendment.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll move that, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, so
Motion and a
we
second.
have a
We need
motion
roll
and a
call.
second
Okay.
for December, and we'll have the hearing on December 19th, next week.
Okay, Mayor, just to be clear, so we're motioning to amend the ordinance to the 200-foot setback, and then public hearing on the 19th.
Right, publish this, public hearing, and then
Okay.
have it on the
Thank
19th.
Thank you. Committeeman Burchett?
Yes.
Committeeman Zelkor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
I got it too. Jeez. Deputy Mayor McCauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. Okay.
God.
And then for members of the public, if anybody wants to hear it again, it's going to be on the 19th.
Okay, so that includes public hearings. We are now moving Back onto considerations. We already did consideration 1, so we are now moving to consideration number 2. Resolution ratifying and confirming the hiring of Jim Menga as a full-time building inspector in Township of Hillsborough Building Department effective December 4th, 2017, at a salary of $62,000. There exists a vacancy in the building department. Mr. Menga has been a part-time employee for approximately 5 months, and he has been through the interview process, and we welcome him to full-time status. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional comments from the dais? From the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commander Shep.
Yes.
Commander Delcor.
Yes.
Commander Thompson.
Yes.
Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi.
Yes. Okay. Okay, consideration number 3, resolution authorizing the mayor and the township clerk to execute interlocal agreement for shared services for building inspectors between Hillsborough Township and Franklin, Branchburg, and Montgomery Townships. There remains a need for additional building inspectors, and shared service agreements between municipalities saves funds for all interested parties. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the dais? Floor?
Love shared services. Thank you, Mayor.
There we go, shout out. Any additional shout outs for shared services?
If I could talk, maybe.
Comments from the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commander Shep.
Yes.
Commander Delcor.
Yes.
Commander Thompson.
Yes.
Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley, Mayor Sarachi.
Yes. Consideration number 4, resolution authorizing an adjustment to the agreement with Jennifer Bean of Leon S. Vakian, Inc. for the provision of affordable housing planning consultant services for the Township of Hillsborough in amount not to exceed $9,500. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Comments from the dais? As you know, Jennifer Bean has been a longtime professional consultant to this governing body, and she has done exemplary work in leveraging, what do we want to call it, the credits
Yep.
to minimize the impact of the affordable housing mandate
really
on us. Okay, comments from the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commander Shep.
Yes.
Commander Delcor.
Yes.
Commander Thompson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi.
Yes, consideration number 5, resolution authorizing the execution of a non-fair and open contract for software maintenance agreement with Larimore Associates for maintenance of the Police Department software for 2018 in the amount not to exceed $17,002. This resolution authorizes the proprietary software for the Police Department. It's been an ongoing, long-term relationship, so.
Can you
we're gonna
repeat that
continue
amount, please?
$17,002?
$17,895.
Yeah,
is what I got.
yeah.
Well, my notes
It was
have
changed to
wrong.
$17,895.
Okay,
Yes.
then.
My apologies.
It's okay, $17,895. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional comments from the dais? From the floor, seeing none, roll call, please.
Commander Shep.
Yes.
Commander Delcor.
Yes.
Commander Thompson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi.
Yes, consideration number 6, resolution authorizing execution of a non-fair and open contract, again with Larimore Associates, in an amount not to exceed $30,432 for the development and installation of CAD-to-CAD integration software for the Hillsborough Police Department. This upgrade is necessary for our expected migration to the county dispatch system. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Additional comments from dais, floor? Roll call, please.
Commander Shep.
Yes.
Commander Delcor.
Yes.
Commander Thompson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi.
Yes, consideration number 7, resolution authorizing special items of revenue and appropriation pursuant to NJSA 40A:87, Chapter 159, Public Laws 1948. This resolution authorizes the insertion of the listed grants into the budget. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from dais? I like grants. You gotta give a shout out. Any additional comments from dais? From the floor, seeing none, roll call, please.
Commander Shep.
Yes.
Commander Delcor.
Yes.
Commander Thompson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi.
Yes. Consideration number 8, resolution authorizing the installation of guide rails by J. Fletcher, Creamer and Son in amount not to exceed $100,000 through the Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council Contract number 26, MOCCP. And this is to replace various guide rails throughout the township. I know this has been a multi-year project that we've been allocating funds to the capital planning budget. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any additional comments from the dais? From the floor, seeing none, roll call, please.
Member Shep?
Yes.
Member Delcor?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McFauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes, consideration number 9, resolution authorizing the purchase of Comcat high-density storage system in amount not to exceed $27,261 from Garden State Office Systems and Equipment through New Jersey State Contract A84478. And this is to increase our storage capacity in the Police Records Department. What is this, a PD night? May I have comments from the dais? From the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Committeemember Shep?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor McFauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. Consideration number 10, resolution approving 2017 budget transfers during the last 2 months of the year, and also in the first 3 months of the new year, budget transfers are permitted, and this resolution effectuates transfers that are needed. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second?
Comments from the dais? From the floor, roll call, please.
Member Shep?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McFauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes, consideration number 11, resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 patrol interceptor sedans and 1 police interceptor SUV from buyer Ford in an amount not to exceed $104,000 through the Cranford Police Cooperative Pricing System contracts. And this is part of the township's ongoing vehicle replacement program. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the dais? It's time for my annual story?
No.
Oh,
No.
no?
No, we heard 15 years.
Okay. Just say that there's a good reason for that, so that we don't have wheels flying off the back of police vehicles like when I first started on the township committee when we failed to do regular replacements, so. I have to get in every year.
Said 16 times.
Okay. Comments from the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Member Shep?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McFauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes, consideration number 12, resolution authorizing execution of a non-fair and open contract with Larimore Associates for CAD software upgrade in an amount not to exceed $52,473 for the Hillsborough Police Department. And this resolution coincides with consideration number 6 with regards to the county migration. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Comments from the dais? Floor, roll call, please.
Member Shep?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McFauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes, moving on to consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second, Mayor?
Comments from the dais? Floor, roll call, please.
Member
Oh, okay, come on.
Sorry.
On your consent agenda tonight is the resolution appointing John Sheridan to a 3-year term for Office of Emergency Management. I just want to note that in a November issue of the Hillsborough Beacon, there was an article about an individual who had submitted a letter of resignation to Fire Chief Rich Bartolucci, I'm reading now, and Deputy Chief Phil Schaefer of Hillsborough Township Fire Company Number 2. This person's resignation was formally announced at the monthly fire meeting at Station 37 on Tuesday, October 3rd. I believe it had to do with a forgery of a certification. They said that Chief Nuara also spoke with OEM Director John Sheridan, as well as Chief Fire Marshal Chris Weiniger about the revelations. But to this date, that person is still a deputy coordinator for OEM. So at least that's how it's listed on the website. So I would just like to recommend against reappointing somebody who manages someone who has been clearly, banned from the fire department in terms of practicing, but is still allowed to practice in the OEM.
No?
I'll take that if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's
So,
typical.
so
Just
first of all,
ridiculous.
that person reports up through, with the fire department. Yes, you're correct, he is a deputy in seeing that type of role, so he did resign from OEM as well. So we can update the website, but that person, I believe, listing from OEM Director Sheridan, that he also resigned from the position as OEM deputy as well. And that person wouldn't be reappointed in January. So you're just a few
Okay,
weeks away.
There was no press release like this about it, and it is still on the site, so that's why I had the impression.
Well, to be fair, the infraction was with the fire department. And
I understand.
And the certification with the fire. So
I
that was taken up by the fire commission. So if you have an issue with that, with the fire commission,
But our
the-
OEM department is still responsible for our safety.
that is correct, but John Sheridan runs the day-to-day operation as director, as an employee here. That individual gets $500 and probably responds a handful of times to emergencies throughout the town. It's not like it's an employee that comes in every day. It's a deputy that assists more or less as a volunteer. They get a stipend for $500 a year. So
Yeah, and the bottom line,
that's the
he-
position you're talking about.
Right, and bottom line.
And the person resigned.
Yeah, he did the right thing and he resigned, and those deputy positions are only one-year appointments, and they come at the recommendation of our OEM coordinator, so I'm sure Mr. Sheridan would not have submitted his name for reappointment, due to those circumstances. So.
And generally speaking, they'll come at the next meeting or right early in January.
Right. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any additional comments from the floor on this evening's consent agenda? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Bichette?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Qualley?
Yes?
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes, may I have a motion to approve this evening's claims list 2017-22?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Comments from the dais? From the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Bichette?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor? Committeeman
Yes.
Thompson? Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Qualley?
Yes?
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes, and this concludes our regular meeting, and as was noted earlier, we do have one more meeting next Tuesday, December 19th at 7:30 PM. However, we do have an executive session, and I will ask Ms. Bork to please read that resolution.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the Public Law of 1975 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas the Township Committee is of the opinion that such circumstances exist. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Hillsborough, and the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey as follows. Number 1, the public shall be excluded from the discussion of the here and after specified subject matter. Number 2, the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Litigation, Hemscorp versus Hillsborough Township. B, contract negotiations, Siemens HVAC. Number 3, the Township Committee may take official action on those items discussed in the executive session upon the conclusion, and the minutes of those discussions shall be made available to the public as soon as the matters under discussion are no longer of confidential or sensitive nature. And number 5, this resolution will take effect immediately.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Comments from the dais? Floor? Roll call, please.
Member Bichette?
Yes.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Qualley?
Yes?
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes, and we will now move into executive session. Good evening, everyone.